Good evening, everybody. My name is Brian Darden, and I just wanted to share a brief experience that I had with cleaning a pot. Wow, cleaning a pot. And the pot in my mind became me, or I became the pot in this experience. So, my wife and I have found a place to fellowship. The pastor of this church is Nelson Bowen, and it's an amazing body of believers who are on fire for God. There is no perfect church. Let me say that. But I tell you what, these folks are in the hands of God, and they're on the right track to living life more abundantly in Him as they serve God from their hearts. So I share that brief nugget because Pastor Bowen, known as PB, has been discussing a topic called the little foxes. And he may talk about big foxes too, but the little foxes are the little areas of sin in our lives that perhaps become distractions or lead us astray, and that could lead to bigger foxes. And so, very powerful message. And what's so fascinating with me is the fact that in this new home that we purchased, that's another story. But in the backyard, there were four foxes, a family of four living in our backyard. And so I'm like, what in the world would make him use a fox as an example? And so the foxes are gone now. They have been caught and released far away. Thank God. So this pot cleaning experience began to resonate with me. And let me set the stage really quick. So we had a family gathering. Long story short, this pot was used to cook some baked beans. And as the beans were prepared with all of the, delicious ingredients, the pot was put on the stove, left on the stove unstirred too long. And so a portion of the beans stuck to the bottom of the pot, burned into the bottom of the pot really good. Yeah. Yes. so so the beans, the good portion of the beans had to be removed from the pot, and the pot was set up to be soaked with the hopes of the materials stuck on the inside being removed at some point in time. We were using the old soak the pot method. So anyway, the pot sat for a day with water in it. The next morning we got up. I got up and decided I was going to, do my good deed in the house and clean the remaining dishes, and more importantly, clean this pot. Well, I began to work on this pot. My goodness. And let me say this really quick. There were some scriptures that came to mind. In addition to the message from PB, Pastor Bowen, about the foxes and the little foxes. But the scriptures that came to mind were, now unto him who is able to do exceedingly and abundantly above all that we could ever ask or think, according to the power that works within us. We can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. Abstain from the appearance of evil. Let not your good be evil spoken of. And there was more, but I'm going to stop right there as those scriptures begin to resurface as I begin to clean this pot. So I began to clean this pot. I had a little scrub pad. I used some warm soap and water, Dawn dish detergent, yes, and began to work on the inner surface of this pot. Now, I'm going to say the diameter of the pot was about 10 to 12 inches in diameter. At least eight inches in diameter was the inner surface was covered with this tightly adhered substance in the bottom of this pot. So I went to work using this scrub pad, and I was making no progress. I was like, what in the world? So I started scrubbing harder. And before you know it, I was scrubbing as hard as I could, uh, and was making very little to no progress. Uh, and so I decided to reposition the pot. Reposition the pot. Hmm. When I repositioned the pot and began to scrub in the opposite direction or a different direction, all of a sudden some of the material began to break up on the inside of the pot. It's like, oh, okay. Reposition, go in a different direction. The steps of a righteous man are ordered by God. Repent, turn from your wicked ways. Oh my God. Yep. So I'm talking about me now. So I realized really quick, this pot became me and I became the pot. So as I repositioned the pot and started scrubbing in a different direction, some of the material began to break up. However, it wasn't happening fast enough. And by the conclusion of this first phase of my attempt to clean this pot, I had worn out that initial pad I was using. My arm was sore. I had to change hands. I had to rinse the pot out. I had to put some new warm water in it with the new dab of Dawn dish detergent and went to work with my left hand. Oh my gosh. I made very little progress. I was making progress, but I made little progress. However, I was so determined to not give up and clean this pot. So here I go again. I went back to my right hand, and eventually the right technique showed up. The right technique was me periodically repositioning this pot, periodically scrubbing in a different direction, but also incorporating the technique of using my thumb and using the scrub pad in front of my thumb, and all of a sudden it started to break up. Well, there was this one spot that was not cooperating. so I was working so hard on this one spot. I'm like, man, I'm just not making any progress. So I decided I was going to work on another area of the pot so that I could make some progress. So after wearing out the second pad, changed the water, put some more warm water in there, added another dab of soap, and went back to work using the new technique with my thumb, a new pad, and I continued to turn it and go in the opposite direction. This one spot I didn't go back to it yet because I believe for me some of these spots to catch some of these little foxes, it takes a moment of fasting and praying, and I believe Pastor Bowen, EPB, actually stated that during his message as well. And so eventually the right tools showed up in my mind. I'm like, man, if I only had a Brillo pad. So thinking about my wife and realizing she normally collects an abundance of cleaning products. So I look in underneath the sink in the cabinet, and lo and behold, there was a box of Brillo pads. Yes, indeed. I'm like, oh my God. So I grabbed one, started going to work, using the right tool now with the right technique as I periodically repositioned this pot and scrubbed in a different direction periodically. And all of a sudden, the material started to break up. I even went back to the spot and quickly removed that spot that was not cooperating. So after about 40 minutes, after about 40 minutes of scrubbing, repositioning the pot, going in a different direction, using the right technique and the right tool, I had finally removed all of this substance in the bottom interior of this pot. It's like, man, arms were sore, thumb was sore, but it was a moment of success. And, as I realized, my first thought was to just throw the pot away. But then I realized God doesn't throw us away. Mm. In fact, he loved us so much, he sacrificed his son for our life, that we may live a better life and have access to him, and have the opportunity to be with him in heaven. So I was like, man, what are you saying to me? What in the world? So after I was successful in cleaning the interior of this pot, after repositioning the pot, going in a different direction, using the right method and the right tool, mm, fasting and praying, believing, and trusting God more than I trust myself. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy path. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart. And lean not into thine own understanding, but in all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy path. The interior of the pot was clean. I decided to flip the pot over and look at the bottom of the pot. Had some burn marks because it was on the stove too long. And so I said, you know what? Let me just attempt to clean the bottom surface of this pot anyway. I took that same Brillo pad, began to work on the bottom of that pot, and lo and behold, the bottom surface of the pot was cleaned. I said, man. So then I just, went over the entire exterior of that pot, and I was so amazed. And that's when the scriptures resonated about let not your good be evil spoken of, and abstain from the appearance of evil. Because people are watching us everywhere we go. And in order for us to lead others in a path or down a path that leads them to a righteous life and lifestyle, it's our opportunity and responsibility to be the best examples we can be everywhere, every day. So here is the pot. This is the interior. This is the bottom. This is the exterior. The pot is heavy. It cost my mother-in-law $99. Yes, it was $100 for this pot. However, if you look really close, there's a light stain on the inside. Yeah. But it's clean. It's clean. I'll tell you this, what I realized about the stain, as far as it relates to me, it's the sin that I must repent of every single day. And I thank God for the opportunity to get down on my knees every morning and thank him for this day, saying the Lord's Prayer and asking him for forgiveness of my sins and shortcomings, and the opportunity to forgive others. Yeah. And so I just thank God for the pot experience. And the indicator or the message that led me to that experience was the message about catching the little foxes and why it matters. And so I'm just thankful. It was something that I felt the need to capture in a message. And so I just thank God for the opportunity to be better, to live better, and to love more, with the hopes of inspiring someone else to do the same thing. Aspire to have a relationship with the true and living God, serving him from the heart, worshiping him in spirit and truth. So thank God. Thank you. Be blessed. Live better. Love more. Do better. Come on. Let's go. Let's grind.